Well, tell us about your shirt. Folks listening, you'll have to describe it to them, but I'm the captain of my
Own ship. Yeah. So one of the great things that's happened is I had a lady on the podcast from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation. A lot of listeners might be familiar with takemefishing.org.
Yep.
And she was talking about this campaign they started last year called Women Making Waves, which is really to try and get more women in the fishing and boating world.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Hey, I'm excited about our show today. We are on location, and if you're listening, you're going to have to go back and watch this show. We are in a pontoon boat at Four Corners Marina, so this is pretty cool. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. But we are on Angie Scott's boat. She is an angler. She works in the music business. We're going to learn all about her today, but she also hosts a podcast called the Women Angler and Adventurer Podcast. So we're going to explore that today, and I've got Mr. Don King with me today as well.
Great to be here. This is the coolest location we have done up to now.
It's
tell you what,
definitely up there somewhere. You
Yeah.
know? We've been on houseboats. We've been on now a pontoon boat.
Yeah,
Defoe's garage.
Defoe's. Yep, sure enough.
So that was pretty cool. But now we're on Angie's boat, a Quest.
Yeah.
Tell us about the boat. How did you come across this?
Yeah, so this is a Quest pontoon. I got it from Anderson Marine in Old Hickory. Quest is located up in Michigan, St. Louis, Michigan, and they're a pretty cool company. I bought a Quest years ago. It's a much smaller one than this one, and fell in love with it, fell in love with the guys that work there, and started this podcast, and we kind of worked out a thing where they're let me use this boat for a few months,
Cool.
kind of show it off, and it's a pretty cool boat to show off.
Do you do all your shows from the boat?
No, but we need to do more.
Yeah, I
I
would
just
say
got
so.
it. I mean, it's brand new. I just picked it up Saturday, so
Yeah,
you guys
so-
are among the first.
That's really neat when you can meet the people that actually,
Yeah.
make your instrument or make your boat. That just adds a special
It does,
touch to
and
it, doesn't
especially when they're like, when I was designing my first boat, one of the things I mentioned to them is eventually I'd like to start guiding, which now I have my captain's license, and
Awesome.
that was quite a process, but they were able to customize it to where, I mentioned that there's a possibility I may take out somebody who's in a wheelchair, so they put in a wheelchair
Oh,
gate.
neat. Yeah.
And then kind of rearrange the furniture so the seat would be removable.
Uh-huh.
And I still have that boat, so I
Awesome.
can still use that one if that situation came up. But this one doesn't have a wide enough gate, but it's still a very nice boat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about the boat, I'm going to jump points here. But so you have this boat because you fish in a tournament.
I
series.
fish in a local club here in Nashville called Team Nashville Bassmasters. I joined it last year. I was a little scared, at first. Honestly, I'm new to bass fishing because I grew up in Minnesota and I grew up fishing walleye. Like, that's kind of my main thing. But I'm out here on Percy Priest all the time, and there's no walleye in Percy Priest.
But did you know the record walleye is caught at Tennessee? The
Yeah,
world
in Old
record?
Hickory, yeah. So that's super cool. And I have fished walleye here in the area. I've gone down to Normandy quite a bit. Fish walleye down there. There's a guide. I'll give him a quick shout out, Pete
Sure.
Hatchett, who kind of took me out and got me my first Tennessee walleye
Neat.
a few years
All right.
ago.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, but bass fishing is something I'm still really learning. And what's cool about Team Nashville Bassmasters is it's a team deal where you have a boater and a co-angler, and you get drawn. So I get to fish with different guys every tournament.
Oh, neat.
And I learned something new from everyone I get paired up with. So it's been, and they've been great. I'm the only female in the club.
I was going to say, I heard you say guys, and I was going to ask you if there were any other ones.
I would love to see that changed. If any women out there are watching or listening to the show, check out Team Nashville Bassmasters.
Yeah.
We need some more women in the club.
Uh-huh.
And just real quick, I also just started a Facebook group called Women Anglers of Tennessee to just kind of try to get more connected to other women in the area who fish. So that would be really cool if you want to jump on that and
That's
kind
great.
of maybe get out and fish together or whatever would be fun. But
you'll have to share that with us. We'll share it
yeah,
with folks.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome. So, you don't get made fun of, hopefully, using a pontoon to fish out here in the Bassmaster team or the Nashville Bassmasters?
Yeah, not so far. And I think when they see this with a 250,
you
know,
probably
it's,
keep up.
I think they're going to be impressed with how comfortable it is to fish from a pontoon. And I don't know why more tournament anglers don't go that route.
Yeah.
I mean, I know pontoons kind of have a stigma of being slow, and it's just not the case anymore. I mean, this is a triple tune, and it just rides really nice, and I think it can handle it pretty well. So I'm excited to try that out here soon.
Yeah,
That's neat.
And I guess it's got a live well. Is this the live well behind us?
Yep, there's a live well back there. There's actually one under where Don's sitting as
okay.
well. So it's got 2 live wells.
Cool.
Yep, and there's like a cutting board in here, and you can just do whatever you want out here.
Neat.
Grill out.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's cool.
Hey,
so-
before we leave the Minnesota thing,
Yeah.
tell us about the land at 10,000 lakes. I mean, did you ever do any ice fishing?
Very little
yeah.
when I was.
If
when
I
was
lived there, I
growing up.
think I would do very little ice fishing too.
Well, my first experience ice fishing, my dad took us out, and I was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. And it was the old school sit on a bucket out in the middle of the lake.
Shut up and fish.
Yeah. And nowadays it's much different than that. I mean, so I had the opportunity to fish ice fish on Lake Superior just this past January.
Oh, neat.
And my co-host of the podcast that I host, the Woman Angler and Adventurer that you mentioned, she is big into ice fishing. She's located up in Wisconsin, and she does this event every year called Women on Ice. And it's a big media event to try to get more imagery of women in the catalogs and such.
Neat.
And so, yeah. So she did this. I went up for that, and it was on Lake Superior out of Bayfield, Wisconsin. And we had these really nice insulated pop-up ice houses with heaters.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was a nice experience.
That's good.
And the water was so clear you could see right down to the bottom.
Oh, man.
It was almost like watching an aquarium,
Wow.
Pretty cool experience. So, if I lived up there now, I'd probably do more ice fishing. I also got to ice fish on Lake Mille Lacs up in Minnesota here not too long ago. So, yeah.
Well, tell us how you came to Tennessee. We kind of skimmed over that earlier, but you're working the music business, but you came to Nashville.
Yeah, so I was going to the University of Minnesota, and I always wanted to work in the music industry for whatever reason. I I loved music and thought that would just be really cool. So I kind of had a plan to study business at the University of Minnesota and then maybe somehow get my foot in the door and counting for a record label or something. I didn't really know what all was out there. And I stumbled upon, it was actually the Oak Ridge Boys. Manager was on the Nashville network talking about the school in Oklahoma City where he has a music business program. And I didn't know such things existed at the time. So that's when I started doing some research, and I found Belmont and MTSU. And I was like, that's where
Go
I need
Blue
to
Raider.
go. Yeah.
All
That's
right.
what I need to be doing. So I worked on transferring down, and it all worked out. I moved down to Murfreesboro and went to MTSU. I still had 3 years to put in there. Unfortunately, the University of Minnesota was one of the last schools still on semester or trimesters. And so my credits transferred over really weird and kind of had to go a little bit longer. But then went there, loved it. I got a 4.0 because I just couldn't believe I was getting graded on things like the history of rock and roll and music publishing. And
That's the class I had to take twice.
I was like watching Rock and Roll Jeopardy on VH1, and I'm studying right now.
Right.
So
That's cool.
I did a bunch of internships and kind of right after I graduated, lucked out and got a job at one of the major booking agencies in town, and I was there for 16 years.
Wow.
So, and just got back into fishing and got my boat 5 years ago. I was like, I'm here. There's these great lakes in the area. I'm not taking advantage of this. I need to be because I love fishing so much. The only time I'd really get to fish is if I had an opportunity to go back up to Minnesota, like for a week over the summers, and we'd go to the lake up there. And so it's just been great ever since. So, yeah.
I think Nashville, it'll do that to a lot of people. Everybody comes to Nashville or comes to Tennessee because of music. I ended up in Middle Tennessee because of music. Don's here because of music from Nebraska. So it's amazing. It's a melting pot, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it really is. And the neat thing is the internships you mentioned, that's where Nashville really has it, or the schools located close to Nashville have a, MTSU and Belmont. I mean, gosh, so much talent comes out of those schools that the industry just kind of welcomes them in and, grooms them. And so that's great. You were able to
it's a very,
take advantage
it's a
that
very
way.
competitive
It is.
industry, so I feel very lucky that everything kind of worked out and ended up. And so now I work for a business management company on Music Row, which is cool. The booking agency I was at was downtown. I always wanted to be on Music Row, so it's kind of cool to.
You made it.
Yeah. Yep. So
that's
been
awesome.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's cool. So real quick, that kind of led being in the music business. Made it an easy transition for the podcast kind of thing.
Yeah, I had some background. I did some songwriting over the years. I think a lot of people do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so I would kind of produce my own demos on GarageBand and stuff. And so a friend of mine approached me. He wanted to start a songwriting podcast years ago and asked he needed a co-host. And so I said, sure, I've never done anything like that before, but I'll give it a shot. So we did that for a while, and that kind of introduced me to the whole podcasting thing. And last year I decided, I want to start my own podcast. And what am I really passionate about? Well, fishing is what I'm really passionate about. Yeah. And so I decided there weren't really any podcasts out there just focused on women fishing. And so I decided that's what I was going to do, and it's been great ever since. It's amazing how much has happened in the last year through that podcast. So.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your shirt. Folks listening, you'll have to describe it to them, but I'm the captain of my
own ship. Yeah. So one of the great things that's happened is I had a lady on the podcast from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation.
Okay.
And a lot of listeners might be familiar with takemefishing.org.
Yep.
And she was talking about this campaign they started last year called Women Making Waves, which is really to try and get more women in the fishing and boating world. There's some kind of staggering statistics that they've gathered. One of them is 17.7 million women participated in fishing, which is a record number, which is great. Awesome. It's growing. 43% of new anglers are women, but there's some problems. Like only 19% of them see themselves represented in the sport of fishing. So, and that makes retention difficult, when you're not seeing that you're being represented. And so they started this campaign to try to get more women sharing on social media and showing kind of at a grassroots level and showing that more women out there are fishing. And kind of one of the slogans we have on our show is, if she can do it, I can do it. When you see other women out there doing it, then you think, oh, if she's doing that, I can get involved with that. Right. So that's, we kind of started working together with them, and they invited us down to ICAST in Orlando, which just happened recently, and they had a big women's meetup one afternoon at ICAST where they invited a lot of the influencers on social media, YouTube, Instagram, other just women in the industry to get together. They did a presentation about this new campaign that they've started. If you go to takemefishing.org you can click on a link, sign up for their social media campaign, start sharing stuff, tagging women making waves, hashtag, and hashtag get your fish on.
Okay.
And you can earn points and win cool shirts like this.
All right.
They
All
have
right.
they have other slogans and different colors and types of shirts you can wear and or win and some other stuff. So
That's
it's kind of a cool idea, and hopefully it really catches on and starts making an impact.
And iCast is the place to go, isn't it, for the fishing industry?
Oh yeah,
it's
it was amazing.
Jason and I don't think you've ever attended, have you? And
I'd
I
like to,
haven't
though.
either. It usually falls about the same time of year as another conference that we attend for work, but I've heard so many great things about that conference, and some people kind of equate it to the fishing version of the SHOT Show, which happens in Las Vegas.
I've been to the Tennessee Fishing Expo.
Right.
Kind of take that and multiply it many times over, and you got iCast. I mean, it's just amazing how many different companies are represented there and products, and we saw some pretty cool products too. There's some pretty cool innovations coming out in the fishing world. One of the coolest ones, if I can mention real quick, this company from Australia has come up with this camera that's dual facing, and you attach it on your line and it floats. So you're fishing, you can trigger it to start recording when you catch something, and it will record you reeling in the fish from both the perspective of you, and you can see the fish on the line, and then back up at the boat as you're reeling it in. And it floats, so if you get snagged or something, bust your line, like you can retrieve the camera.
I think we're going to build one of those into our budget for that.
Yeah.
I think so. It sounds like a 360
Yeah.
kind of deal, and
Yeah.
that's cool that it
Oh,
attaches to
man.
your line.
They've
That
only
is
got
neat.
the patent on it yet. They don't have any units actually available, but I think he said they'll have some test units ready by the end of the year. So
I think you need one of those.
I know. Yeah, I want to try it out for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's a cool thing about iCast. You kind of get to see some of these innovative products
Yeah, that's neat.
first, and it was fun.
I wanted to jump back on the women anglers and women in the outdoors. I see a lot on social media. I think it's growing. I think that number is growing. I could see how that 17.7 million, participate. That's a record number. That's great. And I see a lot of women on Instagram, holding fish and hunting and planting food plots and out there with the guys doing all this stuff. So.
Yep. And hunting's another huge thing where we're seeing a lot of growth, and we have a lot of female hunters on our podcast as well. That's why we kind of added the and adventure part of it, so
Sure.
we can include Melissa Bachman. We just did an interview with her. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but she's pretty phenomenal. We did it actually on bow fishing, which is kind of combining the two sports, I guess,
Yeah.
But it's growing. Still at iCast, there still wasn't a ton of female representation, so we still have a really long way to go. Just products, some companies are coming around and starting to think more about women, like Columbia was one. They're kind of trying to balance out their line of available, fishing shirts and things like that to kind of have just as many options for women as they have for men. So it's cool that companies are starting to think about this.
Yeah.
But we still have a long way to go. So hopefully we'll just keep supporting our BFF, which you mentioned is our BFF.
Our BFF is our BFF.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we get that shout out.
Yeah.
TakeMeFishing.org. Check out that website, and check out our BFFs. All the stuff they're doing. They're retaining and recruiting and reactivating hunters and anglers, trying to do their best to.
The 3 R's.
Yeah, I think all states are trying to implement the 3 R's.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, more women are buying licenses than ever, but they're not necessarily renewing them. And so that, we want to get to that point where.
Maybe we to hook them up with that auto renew.
Yeah, there you go.
If you go to GoOutdoorsTennessee.com, you can auto renew your license here in Tennessee.
Hey, Angie, I got to ask you about something I saw. about you getting to go out with the G-Man.
Yeah.
Gerald Swindle on practice day at the Bassmaster Classic. Tell us about that.
That was kind of a serendipitous thing that happened right in between my transition from the booking agency to the business management world. I was able to take a little bit of time off.
Oh,
and one of the
nice.
things that was going on during that time was the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville. And so
Good timing.
I was like, I'm going to take advantage of this and go out there for that. So I signed up through my podcast for a media credential. And one of the things you can do is put in to do ride-alongs with some of the anglers.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happens GMan is like my favorite. I mean, he's hilarious, you know. And so I just luck of the draw, I got picked to ride along with GMan on practice day, which was Wednesday. And that was an amazing experience. He's obviously, you guys know he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's also a huge music fan, which I didn't realize, but he started referencing stuff that I haven't even heard of. And we pretty much just talked about music the whole
neat.
day. Yeah.
Neat.
That's cool.
So it was super fun. I learned a little bit about fishing. I was trying to, watch what he was doing and pick up a few tricks here and there, but I was just mostly just taking in the whole experience. So that was really, really cool.
He didn't forget you, did he? You said
No,
you saw him
yeah.
again, and he's like, "Come on over."
Yeah, so I ran into him. I saw him at ICAST, and I thought, it'd be so cool to go up and talk to him and see if he remembers me. And I just happened to be walking by. I was actually going to the Art BFF booth to get set up for that event, and he saw me, and he's like, "Hey, girl, come over here." And so I went over, and we started. He was introducing me, and he's like, "Yeah, she was my marshal for the classic." And so I was like, "Okay, cool, you remembered me."
That's neat.
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
we might have him out here on Percy Priest sometime and just hang out on the pontoon and pass the guitar around.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might play. I don't know. I haven't asked him that, but he
I
participated
think
in
he
a.
does a little bit. I think
okay.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was in one of the music videos we did a few years ago with Daryl Worley, and
Oh, cool.
so anyway, it was fun, and he was, as you said, he was just hilarious.
He's a hoot.
Yeah.
His videos on Facebook crack
If,
me up.
You
if
can't
you guys don't
script him.
follow him on like Instagram and Facebook, it's worth following
Yeah.
just to watch his.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's jump from Priest to Old Hickory. You got to fish in a Legends tournament,
Yeah.
and you said you came up on Bill Dance, and he was trying to steal your spot. Is that?
Yep. Yep. Bill Dance was trying to steal our spot. So TJ Martell Foundation, which is a really great cancer research foundation, puts on this event. This was the third annual one that took place this year. And they used to do a golf tournament, so I think it's really cool that they decided to start doing fishing tournaments as
Sure,
a big
definitely.
fundraiser. Chris Young, country music artist, Murfreesboro
Yeah.
boy, was one of the title sponsors of it, and they teamed up with the three legends, which is Bill Dance, Roland Martin, and Jimmy Houston. And so those guys all fish in the tournament, and you can actually sign up for auction item to go out and fish with one of those guys,
Oh,
which
wow.
what a chance of a lifetime. So it's
Definitely.
a great event. So I fished it as a boater this year from my little Quest pontoon. And yeah, we got a few looks pulling up to the ramp in a pontoon. Like some people were like, "Are they gonna fish?" And yeah, we did. And I only have a 25 horse motor on that, but we got around, and I found a friend of mine kind of gave me a tip on this one spot, this little hump area out there not too far from the ramp, because I was like, I'm going to need some close areas since I'm not going to be able to go super fast. But we were out there fishing, and lo and behold, pulls up Bill Dance not too far from us, and I was like, okay, well,
You're in a good
I
spot.
feel pretty confident about where we're fishing right now.
That's
so that,
good.
yeah, that was a pretty cool experience.
That's
and
great. Yeah.
I actually ran into Roland Martin's wife, Judy, down at ICAST, and she's a firecracker.
Huh.
She grew up fishing. They've been married like 18 years now, but she grew up and she's fished tournaments her whole life. So I'm going to try to get her on our podcast sometime
Oh,
and
neat.
talk
Yeah.
to her. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was all about it. So
That's
that'll be
cool.
fun. Yep.
That's cool. Well, let's go on down the list here. You mentioned earlier you got your captain's license.
Yep.
So that's cool.
That was quite a process. If anyone wants to try to get your captain's license, just be aware there's a lot of requirements you have to meet, but it's not impossible. I did it. If I can do it, you can do it. But I think it's important for everybody to have some kind of boating education. We're out here on Percy Priest. It gets really busy. I think it's super important to just have a really good understanding, if nothing else, the rules of the road.
Right.
Know who has the right of way. Obviously, if you get your captain's license, you go really in depth into all that stuff. But like a good boating safety course, I think you guys offer.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Those I highly recommend. But getting my captain's license was quite a challenge, but it was fun, and it was kind of funny. My test was out in Chattanooga. There were a couple locations you could pick, and it was either like Memphis or Chattanooga, and I chose Chattanooga. And it was at the Bass Pro Shop out there, and I walked in to the testing room, and there was a guy in there, and we were kind of talking, and then after a minute, we realized we knew each other.
Huh.
It was just the two of us testing that day, and he's a guide out on Mountain Hill, and he guides for muskie, and I've never caught a muskie. It's like one of my bucket list fish.
That'd be awesome.
So
yeah.
I took him out one day, or he took me out, I should say, and he had just caught the state record a few weeks before.
Oh, man.
And his name's Stephen Paul, and we had a few follows that day. We didn't get any. It's a fish of 10,000 casts, so I guess I got to go out a couple more times before I get my muskie. But so that was kind of funny. Small world kind of thing. So.
Well, let's before we run out of time, let's give Four Corners a shout out, and then I want to hear about how people can find your podcast. So tell us about where we're sitting here at Four Corners. You said the tornado come through here.
Yeah, this dock that we're docked at the end of was actually hit by a tornado March 1st, 2017. It was quite a crazy experience. I mean, really did a lot of destruction. I happened to be on a houseboat that morning, didn't realize the weather was going to be that bad.
That's scary.
Yeah. So that was crazy.
Well, so thanks to Four Corners. Thank them for letting us come out here and use the end of Dock K here. So, but then also tell us how we can find the Woman Angler Adventure podcast.
Yep, you can go to thewomanangler.com. All our episodes are available there. We're on Apple Podcasts, all the major podcast platforms. So definitely, we'd appreciate go check it out, subscribe, and join that Facebook group I mentioned too.
Yeah. We'll have to search that, and like I said, we'll share that with folks, and they can find that easy, hopefully.
Great.
So
thank you guys for coming out today.
Yeah, you
It's
bet.
fun.
This has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you guys too.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. Like I said, thank Angie for being on with us, and make sure you check out the Woman Angler Adventure podcast, and then check out this show, tnwildlife.org, for all the latest information on Tennessee outdoor news. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.